good morning. How's everybody this morning? All doing well? All right, one more day to the weekend, right? Yeehaw. Good stuff. Y'all got big plans? No? No big plans? No? Okay. All right, so this is day 3, and this is the funnest part, I think, with the government response.
Oh, is it not working?
Okay, so to start off with, the standard for today, evaluate the effectiveness of government policies in defining individual rights and responsibilities, okay? The learning objective, which is the end goal that we've had with one of these each day as we went through, you will be able to evaluate the effectiveness of what's called the New Deal in addressing the Great Depression. So the New Deal was the government's response to the Great Depression. And we're going to study those in depth today. But before we do that, what I'd like for you to get you to do is each of you have an index card. And on that index card, what I'd like for you to do is, as I go through this, I want you to look at we'll go through the different types of government responses, if you will, as parts of the New Deal. And what I want you to do is I want you to write individually what your thoughts are, whether you think that is a good program or it's not a good program. Because we're actually going to, as you're planning, you're going to plan individually, then you're going to plan as a group, okay? A group as in a group at your table, okay? And then we're going to have a discussion about whether you think it's a good way of dealing with the problem or it's not. So hopefully you guys will have a better understanding before the end of the day today, or by the end of the class today, how that works, okay? Any questions at all about that? So again, we're evaluating those things. And it may seem like it's going to be a boring time because you're talking about what the government does. Ugh, that's almost worth not listening to. But at the same time, it is because the government felt like they were being very responsive to the whole thing. And of course, the public foots the bill for all of it along the way, okay? So here we go. So we're going to talk. Okay, so let's watch this to start off with. And
cars proceeded down toward the capital for business, bearing with them the hope of the country for new seasons.
The Depression was a tumultuous, complicated period of time. But Franklin Roosevelt's fundamental conviction was that you had to show that the system could respond, and that therefore the system was worth defending.
The fate of democracy hangs in the balance. This is not an understatement. This is a moment in which leadership is vitally important.
This is a day of national consecration. First of all, let me assert my firm belief that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. This nation asks for action, and action now. The people of the United States have not failed in their need. They want direct, vigorous action.
His first inaugural, he talks about how we cannot let the Depression paralyze our efforts or convert advance into retreat. I've always thought it was fascinating that he used the word paralyze. And I don't know how conscious it was, but it was a sign that he saw the world as motion. And he no longer could move literally. So he would use all of his energies to help the country move figuratively.
He sets up an expectation for the American public that you have to help me. If you want to get through this problem, I can do some things, but you have to do other things.
And the most important thing he did was to say the people are not responsible for this depression. The failure of leadership is responsible. I am here to give that leadership. And with that leadership, there would be hope, there would be jobs. Here is this paralyzed man who is making the people who feel paralyzed feel hope once again. And he said, we need action, and we need action right now. And if the Congress will not give me what I need, I will use the broad powers of the executive as if we were at a war.
We all know what we're up against. But now it's our turn to fix it.
The economy has been plunging for 3 years, and it still hadn't found bottom. And the critical thing at that particular moment was that the banking system had seized up. One of the reasons the banks failed is the banks had taken that money and invested it in the stock market. And so when the stock market went down, they didn't have enough money to pay their depositors. So banks were simply closing. They had already closed by the thousands. And it looked as though
We've been talking about this
America's
week, talking about the
national
bank
financial system
closures.
was on the verge of utter collapse.
It's important to realize there was no safety net in those days. If a bank collapsed, the federal government wasn't going to help you.
It is a real crisis, a crisis that no one could ever have imagined hitting one of the wealthiest countries in the world. Was capitalism failing? Had capitalism actually failed?
Many people thought the United States of America as a political entity was over, that our capitalist system was over.
The country's on the edge of a cliff, but we're not going to let it fall. The first thing we're going to do is to declare a banking holiday. It'll prevent further runs and buy time for Secretary Wooden to draft some legislation.
You're gonna have to expand presidential authority if you wanna get anything done.
Precisely. But first, we have to figure out which banks can be saved and which have to close.
March 5th, essentially his first act as President of the United States is to close every bank in America.
The banks were going to close for a week. They're going to open Monday morning.
Now he uses a wonderful phrase, he calls it a bank holiday.
And that gave Franklin a chance to call Congress into an emergency session. And incredibly, in the space of several hours, they passed this huge emergency banking bill.
Divide up the banks into 3 categories. Those banks that are healthy enough to reopen, those banks that can reopen but are gonna need help from the federal government, and those banks that are so bad that there's not much we can do about them.
Your money backed by real assets, borrowed from other banks treasury to revitalize the country's commerce.
This emergency banking bill will allow them to have currency shipped to the banks that are stable enough to handle it. Planes are on the tarmac ready to fly the currency to each one of the banks.
Before Roosevelt, before this moment in American history, the federal government had never taken it upon itself to bolster an industry the way the federal government was bolstering the banking industry. It was quite a striking, even a revolutionary thing for the government to undertake.
Franklin's afraid that once they've opened the banks again, that people will then rush to take their money out because they haven't had it for a whole week, and then the whole system would collapse.
This was 0 hour. So FDR has got the biggest challenge for a leader, which is make people feel a little bit reassured, and at the same time, get them to do something that their instincts tell them not to, which is keep your money in the banks.
Franklin decides on a Sunday night before the Monday opening, he's going to give a fireside chat to the people. This is really the first presidential fireside chat.
Nervous? What's there to be nervous about? I just have to convince the entire American public to trust me with their life savings.
In 13 minutes.
Got it. NBC says ready to go. CBS is live. 10 seconds, Mr. President. And 5, 4.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States.
My friends, I want to talk for a few minutes with the people of the United States about banking. I want to tell you what has been done in the last few days, and why it has been done, and what the next steps are going to be. This bank holiday, while resulting in great inconvenience, is affording us the opportunity to supply the currency necessary to meet the situation. It is possible that when the banks resume, people who have not recovered from their fear may again begin withdrawals. Let me make it clear that the banks will take care of all needs. I can assure you that it is safer to keep your money in a reopened bank than under the mattress.
80% of the adult radio audiences are listening, and it was said that streets were empty at the time because everybody's sitting staring at their radio.
We have provided the machinery to restore our financial situation. It is up to you to support and make it work. It is your problem no less than it is mine. Together, we cannot fail.
Remarkable piece of work. A space of just less than 15 minutes. He calls on the American people. And he says basically, we have done what we can do here in Washington. Now we look to you. And with your support, our work will succeed. And so he puts the American people essentially into potential cooperation with the administration.
Franklin gives us the address on Sunday night. And the big question is what's going to happen tomorrow morning when we reopen the banks.
The next day would be the true test. Did this work? If it fails, then it will mean the whole financial system will fail in the very first week of his presidency.
It is not an exaggeration to say that the country is on the verge of collapse.
Let's find out today's lunch menu. Jelly bouillon.
Mrs. Nesbitt says it's nutritious.
I like it.
Have you heard anything?
Not yet. Maybe we should cancel the president's lunch because of the bouillon?
Well, no, there's two reasons. No, I'm concerned if things don't go our way with banks.
They will. They have to.
It's Monday morning. And there's long lines at the bank again, and they panic. Maybe they've come to take their money out. Did this work?
We should have heard something by now.
You think it's a bad sign?
No news is no news. Yes. I see. Thank you. They're standing in line. They're bringing their money back. We're going to be okay.
They're actually carrying satchels of money to bring their money back to the banks. So that night, headlines, confidence in banking system resumed, banking crisis over.
And the only thing that has changed is FDR's leadership and his ability to convince the American public that he has solutions, that things will get better, and it is an extraordinary moment in American history. FDR essentially ends the banking crisis in one simple radio broadcast.
Franklin Roosevelt made government an ambient force in the lives of people who might otherwise have only encountered the government at the post office or perhaps the subsidized railroad or something.
People felt that FDR had saved their lives, saved their children's life, given them a chance to go forward.
Okay. So that was just one example of the government and what they did or what they could do to help the American people. Now, the question still remains, was it actually successful? Did it set out to do what it was set out to do? And so each of us have to determine that, and we have to realize that that everybody did not benefit. We have to realize that the government did not get everything that they wanted from certain programs. So we're going to study not just the banking, but also look at other things today as well. So if you look, here are a few of the, this is the overview of the New Deal programs, okay? There's several of them listed here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. And so I'm going to assign that to you to look up what those things are, what those programs are, okay? And we will look them up. You can look it up on the computer. But listen, it's very important that as you're looking, obviously if you just put in a Google search and put, was the Civilian Conservation Corps effective? What do you think it's going to say? What do you think it's going to say? Yes, it's going to say it was effective. You can put in every one of those things. Was the Social Security Act effective? Is it still effective? Is it still going on? Yes, it was effective. All right, so you're going to always hear that no matter what you're doing, because the way things are set up, it wants to make everything look positive, that everything that the government does is a positive thing. And I'm here to tell you that everything the government does is not a positive thing. Okay? We are a country that was founded on being independent from government, being independent people that forge the way ourselves. And so we have to decide if we are going to be a people that rely wholeheartedly on government to help us through the rough times in our life. Is that the way to do that? And so you have to decide today, are these programs good programs? And some of them are still alive today, especially the last two. Well, the last three are, really. So the first one, the overview comes in 3 categories: relief, recovery, and reform. Everybody say relief. Really loud. Everybody say relief.
Relief.
That's not really loud. Everybody say relief.
Relief.
That's still not loud. Oh my goodness. Y'all act like y'all have no engagement whatsoever. All right, follow with me here. Relief. So there are 2. That's better. Thank you. I didn't even ask you to repeat it. All right. So, all right. So you look on here. Relief. So the Civilian Conservation Corps was one of the things, and the Work Progress Administration, the CCC, and the WPA. Now these organizations were formed so that the people could go back to work. Okay. The CCC specifically was known for the youth involvement, 18 and under, of those that needed work. And so, has anybody ever been on the Blue Ridge Parkway before? Anybody been to Blue Ridge Parkway? Anybody been to a state park before? Come on, surely you've been to a state park.
How many of y'all have been to Pilot Mountain State Park?
Hanging Rock State Park, Pilot
Hanging
Mountain
Rock,
State
Stone
Park,
Mountain.
Sourtown Mountain, Blue Ridge Parkway, all that stuff. I cannot believe this. All right, so if you've been to these places were built by the CCC and the WPA. Has anybody ever been to Boone? Anybody going to Boone before? All right, and on the way to Boone, you see a bridge that goes across the highway that's made of stone. Anybody ever see that big bridge before you get to a place called Triplet? Y'all need to pay attention, all right? Because I'm serious. Because these things, these monuments to our history are still there. The entire Blue Ridge Parkway that runs from throughout North Carolina up into Virginia as well, okay? That Blue Ridge Parkway was built by the CCC and the WPA. It's specifically by hands of probably, most likely, people that you know. They may not have ever said anything to you, but I remember specifically sitting down and talking with my wife's grandfather, and when he was a kid, he would be gone for the whole week and come back on the weekends. So he would go, he'd catch the train early in the morning on Monday morning, and then he would be on the job site all week long, and he'd come back. And because they gave him a job with the Civilian Conservation Corps when he was a kid. And so one of the places that you need to look at with that, if you ever go to Hanging Rock State Park. With Hanging Rock State Park, they actually have a display talking about the CCC, and with all that happening. And so with the CCC, that was one of the things that each of us we took at least the country, took a positive look at it and said, hey, this is supplying money. But who do you think is footing the bill for that? Who is footing the bill? Who is paying for this work to be done? Who's paying for the work to be done? Anybody know? Are you going to say the government? Say the government. If I say it? Okay, the government. Okay, so how does the government get the money to run the program? From your taxes. It's tax. Everybody say taxes. Okay, how many of you like Sour Patch Kids? How many of you like Snicker bars? How many of you like Dr. Pepper? How many of you like, all right, so you look at all these things. You are paying, although it stays more locally in the state tax or local taxes, okay, you are paying taxes for that, okay? And those taxes are going to help fill in potholes in the roads, paying for schools, paying for things that you would not think you're normally paying for. Now, your parents pay the lion's share, the bulk of the taxes for the country through federal taxes. Okay? And as they're paying for these taxes, it's going toward funding government programs, welfare, Social Security, all that stuff that you say you get for free. But guess what? You don't get it for free. You're paying for it. So if somebody is legitimately if they are legitimately disabled and they cannot work, that's perfectly fine. But it was never intended for the system to have people just being on welfare for no reason whatsoever. Right now we have fourth generations that are living in government housing. Okay? And it was never intended. It was never set up that way. It was only set up as a temporary relief until you could get a job and get another place to live. Now, I'm not throwing down on anybody that lives there, that's receiving assistance. I'm not throwing down on anybody like that. Okay? But what I am saying is that those things are funded, and people understand, they don't understand that it's coming from your tax money. Your tax money, it funded all of this stuff, and it's funding the stuff that you see today as well. Okay, so that's the CCC and the WPA. Next is recovery. Everybody say recovery? Recovery. All right, that's a little better. All right, recovery, the Agricultural Adjustment Act. Okay, and what this is basically is, if, remember we talked about underconsumption, overproducing, remember that? All right, the businesses, farmers were overproducing stuff, and because they couldn't sell it because because the people couldn't afford it. They couldn't buy it. All right, so you had all this leftover stuff. All right, and so the government was encouraging people, the farmers specifically, not to grow certain things, or only grow so much, and then that's it. Okay, so that even happens today. How many of you had grandfathers, or maybe even some of your fathers, that still farm tobacco? Anybody? Anybody farm tobacco? Or fathers, grandfathers? Anybody like that? Okay, so just recently, the government, that's probably, I don't know if it's the most recent one or not, but the government had paid money to farmers not to farm a certain kind of tobacco, okay, in this area specifically. And what they did is they asked them not to farm that, and so they can farm other stuff on the property, okay? And so that's the Agricultural Adjustment Act. That's what they've done, and they've done that ever since the New Deal programs. That's one of the things that hasn't gone away. The only three things that still are in existence here are with the recovery and the reform part of it. Okay. The next thing, the Social Security Act. Anybody heard of Social Security before? Oh, come on. Yeah. I know Miss Boone's getting ready to retire, so we got it. Just kidding. All right, so Miss, yeah, we will benefit from your work with that, because you are paying and we are paying into what's called Social Security. Okay? And so when you are paying into Social Security, one of the things that you're doing is it's like a tax. They're taxing you and putting that money away so that later on you can help support the next generation. okay, or the generation before you, when they're ready to retire. When they turn 65, they can start retire, or 70, when they start retiring. So that's the Social Security Act. Again, it's being funded by who? Who's funding the Social Security Act? Don't you dare say the government. It's you. You are funding. Your parents are funding that. Okay? Anytime you think the government is funding something, that's you funding it. You're giving them the permission to fund it. Okay? All right. Finally, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. Everyone will like this one. The FDIC. Anybody ever been into the bank and seen this sign? Anybody ever seen this sign? Hold on. There it is. Back. Right there. Anybody ever seen this right here? And this is actually an old sign because I think it now protects up to 250,000. Is that right? Okay. So this says just 100,000. But if you put money in the bank, okay, it's going to protect you. So if the bank were to crash today, you would get at least back here. This was 100,000, but I think it's $250,000 now. It's insured. The government backs it up. So, and it says the government backs it up. Who is really backing it up? Very good. You are. Thank you. You are awesome. I wish I had $1. All right. So those things are important things. All right. So what I'd like for you to do is I'd like for you to look up each of these programs. Okay. Right there. Look up each of these programs, and I want you to tell me a little bit about them. I want you to tell me, hold on, I didn't say do anything yet. Just put your laptop down for a second. Don't start it up yet. Yeah. All right, so as you go through, one of the things that you will see is obviously, if you just put in Google, and is this an effective program, I guarantee it's going to say yes. Okay? All right, so, but I want you to do a little more research than that. I want you to dig a little deeper, get different perspectives on it, okay? There may be some articles, things. We'll get started with this until lunchtime, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to assign these to you. So I want you to do this CCC, this group right here. Individually, I want you to look it up, okay? All right, I want you guys to do the WPA, okay? I want you to do the Agricultural Adjustment, okay? Social Security Act, okay? And I want you to do the federal FDIC. Y'all can do that. Y'all did banking last time, didn't you? No, some of y'all new to this group. Okay, did y'all do banking last time in this group? Okay. All right, and then I want you to do some more work on the Civilian Conservation Corps with this. Okay. Everybody know what they're assigned. Write that at the top of your index card, and I want you to just start gathering information. Okay, gathering information. This is the bulk of what we're doing today. Okay, so you don't have to worry, we're not going to rush through it, but at the same time, we need to be able to communicate, talk about it. We're going to discuss it after you get done doing some research.
So guys, you can also kind of treat this like an argument. And you've all learned, like in the past week or two, what an argument is, parts of an argument, right? So the issue would be, is Social Security Act, is that an effective program? That's the question being asked, right? So that's the issue. Well, the claim is whatever you think, right? It is. The claim might be it is a effective program, or it is not an effective program. Well, what do you have to have after you have a claim? Evidence. Well, reasons. Yeah, you have to have evidence. You gotta have reason, right? You gotta have a reason why it's an effective program, and then you gotta have evidence, right? What else can you add to that to make it a strong argument after you've had your claim and your reasons and your evidence? An opposing claim, so what's that called? What do we call that? What? Counterclaim, right? So you have a counterclaim, so then you'll have to go to the opposite side, like Mr. Ream said. Get multiple perspectives on it, right? Look up multiple perspectives, and that's how you have to look up multiple perspectives. So you pick a side, do some research, find some reasons, evidence, then research the other side for your counterclaim, and just kind of do it. We can do it like that. right?
That's good.
Okay.
And we can do, if you wanna do, we can say for the CCC against the CCC.
Right.
So 2 for and 2 against.
Okay.
So for the WPA against the WPA, okay? We can kind of look at that. And same with you guys. For the Agricultural Adjustment Act, and you can say you're against the Agricultural
So
Act.
you two.
All right? It's the
you
same
two do
thing.
For Social Security. Okay, you two do for Social Security, you do against.
That's even better.
Oh, it is. Alright, let's go to lunch.
Now for lunch. We'll come right back and jump right into it when we come back. Y'all have a good lunch. Again, this is one of those things that you can spend a week on this. And then some. Yeah, right?